Welcome back. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency says hackers have struck a federal agency. CISA says the hackers may have gotten in through a government VPN server. Bob Bigman's founder of 2B Secure, former Chief Information Security Officer at the Central Intelligence Agency. Bob, I quote from CISA's analysis report, federal agency compromised by malicious cyber actor. CISA became aware via Einstein of a potential compromise of a federal agency's network. Is that maybe the silver lining in this cloud? Einstein works, it seems.
It worked in this case, and that's, yeah, you're right. That is the silver lining. But there's still too many dark clouds here that really paint a bad picture for federal cybersecurity. I wish they would turn that document, that report, which I thought was very well done, into legislation, because these organizations still don't even do cyber hygiene very well. That's just unacceptable.
Well, to that end, the report I thought was striking and worth discussing just because it walks one through the step-by-step process that CISA undertook and that the hackers undertook to get into the system. But you're right, we get to the end and we get to the recommendations. I'm no cyber expert, but to me, the prevention recommendations, deploy an enterprise firewall and block unused ports, strike me as things that I think we've been talking about for a long time. Did I miss something?
No, you didn't miss anything. But again, those recommendations I think are accurate. I'm pretty sure in this case that this and all of the other agencies have firewalls. I think the point they're really making here is the firewall policies perhaps are not very strong, and probably don't provide the protection that you need to, because the other recommendation was, well, you also have to turn off the ports that you're not using to communicate with your organizations and your employees over the internet. Yeah, it's very damning, and again, it just points to this ongoing and very frustrating response to people who work with the government and are trying to do the right thing. That they need to understand their number one risk is hacking. It's external hacking. And they need to focus laser-like attention on that. And for a variety of reasons, they don't.
I'm puzzled by some of the additional recommendations. There's a list of, it looks like 6 or 7 things that CISA is suggesting. And again, some of these seem to be things that I figured was already happening. Implementing multi-factor authentication, especially for privileged accounts. Keep software up to date. We're still telling people to keep software up to date in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is because you have very, old systems still in the U.S. government that the vendors don't even necessarily provide updates for, that are found to have been full of vulnerabilities. Another part of it, they don't use I see this a lot in the government. They just don't even use some of the tools available in the marketplace now and have been available for like the last 5 years to do automated patch management and to do better endpoint detection and response. And I think that's the message that's being written into these recommendations.
And I wondered if that was not maybe the underlying message here. CISA and other cybersecurity organizations, as enterprises and individuals like you, have been saying for a long time agencies should, if they have not already, move to the default posture of assuming a breach. If one is assuming a breach, it strikes me this is a tremendously instructive document as to the type of breach that one should assume. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, that's right on. And I wish they would approach cybersecurity with that attitude. I think part of the problem is there's so many conflicting messages today in federal cyber security. Now they're in the Senate. They just had this RISC, which is you have to use a RISC, automated quantified risk measurement type of tool. You have to use the CSF. No, you have to use the NIST 853. No, you have to be FISMA compliant. I mean, there's just a cacophony of messaging going on today to the federal government CISO. And it's a shame, because what they really need to do, as I said before, is focus on 2 things: hacking and hygiene. You get those right, and you pretty much, did your job.
Are some of those pieces of legislation or some of those orders at odds with each other, Bob?
They're not necessarily at odds, but what they do is they diffuse the message to a point where it becomes difficult for the government CISO and the auditing organizations in those agencies to frankly determine priorities, right? And they're constantly moving from 1 to 3 to 4, back to 2 to 4, and they don't have enough energy and money and resources to spend on the as I said before, the two critical issues that they face today, which is hacking and hygiene.
You have said before that agencies have plenty of tools, both available to them and actually tools that they have purchased or subscribed to. How do you sort through that to get to those two main points that you're talking about? It would strike me if agencies have lots of tools, they should probably have the tools they need to do those two things.
Yeah, I just talked last week to some friends of mine at Microsoft, and they were telling me about how frustrated they are in the federal government trying to convince the agencies to just turn on the capabilities that they provide, both in their endpoints, in their servers, and in their cloud offerings that the government bought. The government paid for these tools when you bought your license, right? And they have to be very careful. They're supporting the customer, but they're very frustrated, and I've heard this from other companies as well, is that they won't turn on and utilize the tools already provided, and that's horrible.
Bob, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to have you back.
Sure, thank you.